Welcome back to our deep dive into the haunting landscapes of Soğmatar. In part one, we explored the site's layout and history, from that imposing central mound to those rock-cut tombs.
And those incredible Baza caves, that mystical Panyan cave, and even touched on that intriguing connection to Moses.
Right.
Now let's get our hands a little dirtier, so to speak.
Okay.
Let's examine some of the key discoveries at Soğmatar.
What I find so exciting is, you know how these discoveries connect us to the people who actually lived and worshipped at Soğmatar thousands of years ago? These aren't just stones and structures. They're glimpses into their daily lives, their beliefs, even their playtime.
Exactly. Yeah. It's one thing to admire the architecture, but holding an artifact and realizing it was once touched by someone who lived thousands of years ago, that's a whole other level. It makes history come alive.
It does. One discovery that really captures the imagination is that 5,000-year-old clay toy chariot we mentioned earlier, complete with wheels. It was found in a child's tomb from the early Bronze Age.
I can almost see a child pushing that little chariot around, lost in their own little world, maybe imagining themselves as a powerful ruler or a charioteer, racing across the plains. It's a touching reminder that, kids have always been kids, no matter the time or place.
It is. They play, they dream, and they leave behind these traces of their world for us to find. And speaking of traces, the rock-cut tombs have yielded a wealth of artifacts that shed light on the lives of Soğmatar's inhabitants. One tomb in particular stands out, a chamber over 5 meters by 4 meters with carvings of an entire family.
It's like a family portrait etched in stone.
It is.
This level of detail suggests they were people of some importance.
Yeah, it's a remarkable piece of funerary art. It offers a glimpse into their family structure and perhaps even their social status. The fact that they were immortalized in this way suggests that they held a prominent position within the community.
It also speaks to the enduring power of family bonds, right? Even in the face of death, they wanted to be remembered together as a unit.
Absolutely. And it's not just the tombs that have yielded fascinating insights. Excavations have uncovered architectural wonders that enrich our understanding of Soğmatar.
Okay.
Take, for instance, the 7 temples surrounding the central mound. Each one carefully aligned with a celestial body. It really emphasizes the importance of astronomy and star worship in their culture.
It reminds us that these ancient people were very keen observers of the night sky. They saw the stars as more than just points of light.
Right.
They saw gods and goddesses influencing their lives and destinies. They saw patterns and meaning in the movements of the heavens.
They did. And there are also remnants of walls and turrets on the main hill dating back to the 2nd century AD.
Oh.
These fortifications suggest a period of conflict or at least a need for protection.
It makes you wonder, what threats did they face? Were they attacked by rival tribes, bandits, or perhaps even forces from a distant empire? It's a reminder that life in ancient times was often precarious, and safety was a constant concern.
It was. And it also suggests that Soğmatar wasn't just a religious center, but a strategic location as well. It might have controlled important trade routes or resources.
That's a good point. It adds another layer of complexity to our understanding of the site. And speaking of layers, let's not forget that open-air sanctuary atop the hill, a place where rituals were performed under the open sky. Archaeologists have discovered circular pits there, likely used for animal sacrifice.
They were.
Animal sacrifices. That must have been quite a sight.
It's certainly a practice that's far removed from our modern sensibilities, but for them, these sacrifices were a central part of their religious practice. They believed it was a way to appease the gods, to ensure their favor, and to maintain balance in the world.
It really highlights the vast differences in worldview between then and now. It makes you realize how much our understanding of the world, our place in it, has shifted over time.
It does. And it's not just the structures and artifacts that tell a story. Even the ground beneath our feet at Soğmatar holds secrets. Archaeologists have unearthed human and animal bones in some of the tombs, potentially hinting at ritual practices that involved sacrifice.
That's both fascinating and a little unsettling. But it's a valuable reminder that we shouldn't judge the past by our own modern standards.
Absolutely. These practices might seem strange or even barbaric to us, but they were deeply meaningful to them. They were a way to connect with the divine, to deal with the mysteries of life and death, and to find a sense of order in a world that often felt chaotic.
It also reminds us that history isn't always pretty. It's full of complexities and contradictions. And it's important to acknowledge those complexities rather than trying to sanitize the past.
Exactly. The past is messy, just like the present. And by confronting those messy parts, we gain a more nuanced and ultimately more honest understanding of who we are and where we come from.
And speaking of confronting the complexities of the past, let's talk about those numerous ancient wells scattered throughout the site. They speak volumes about the challenges of living in this arid region.
Water was precious in this environment.
Yeah.
These wells weren't just sources of water, they were lifelines. They sustained the community, allowed crops to grow, and made life in this harsh landscape possible.
It also suggests a sophisticated understanding of water management. They must have developed techniques for collecting rainwater, digging wells, and distributing that precious resource throughout the community.
They had to be resourceful to survive in this environment, and that resourcefulness is reflected in all aspects of Soğmatar, from their quarrying operations to their agricultural practices to their religious rituals.
They were adapting to their environment, working with it, and finding ways to thrive despite the challenges. And that brings us to the importance of stratigraphy. That's the study of layers of soil and artifacts. Analysis of the central mound reveals occupation layers dating back to the Chalcolithic period.
It's like peeling back the layers of a cake, with each layer representing a different period in Soğmatar's long history. And those layers tell a story of continuity, of a site that was occupied and reused for thousands of years.
It's amazing to think about the generations of people who lived, worshipped, and were buried in this place. It makes you wonder about the stories they told, the songs they sang, the dreams they had.
It does, and it underscores the enduring appeal of this location, a place that held spiritual significance for generation after generation. But as we've seen, Soğmatar's legacy faces a number of challenges. Preserving this incredible site is a constant battle against the forces of nature and, sadly, the destructive actions of humans.
The arid climate is definitely a major factor. The extreme temperatures, the occasional flash flood, they take their toll on those exposed structures.
It's a slow, relentless assault, and it requires constant vigilance and effort to mitigate that damage. It's a bit like trying to hold back the tide.
And then there's the threat of looting, a problem that plagues archaeological sites all around the world. Sadly, Soğmatar is no exception.
It's truly heartbreaking. It's not just about the theft of artifacts. It's about the destruction of history, the disruption of the archaeological record.
It's like ripping pages out of a book.
Yeah.
We lose those vital pieces of information that help us understand the past. And it makes the work of archaeologists and conservators all the more challenging.
Absolutely. They're not just piecing together the past. They're fighting to protect it. And they're doing incredible work using a combination of traditional methods and cutting-edge technology.
So what are some of the specific things they're doing to conserve Soğmatar? What does that fight actually look like?
Well, one key strategy is structural reinforcement. Carefully stabilizing walls, tombs, and other features that are at risk of collapse due to weathering or erosion.
So it's like a delicate surgery, carefully repairing the damage while respecting the patient's unique anatomy.
That's a great analogy. And they use materials and techniques that are compatible with the original construction, ensuring that the historical integrity of the site is maintained.
Yeah.
They're not just slapping on modern concrete. They're thinking carefully about how to preserve the authenticity of these structures.
That makes sense. It's about respecting the past, not trying to erase it or rewrite it.
Exactly. And they're not just focusing on the structures themselves, they're addressing the surrounding environment as well. For example, they're implementing erosion control measures to prevent further damage from wind and rain.
So things like regrading slopes, planting vegetation to stabilize the soil, maybe even installing drainage systems to devote water away from vulnerable areas.
Precisely. It's a holistic approach, recognizing that preserving an archaeological site isn't just about fixing what's broken, it's about understanding and managing the entire ecosystem.
It's about recognizing that these sites are interconnected with their surroundings. They're not isolated islands, they're part of a larger landscape.
Right. And another important aspect of conservation is documentation. Archaeologists are using, cutting-edge technology like 3D scanning and GIS mapping to create detailed records of Soğmatar.
Those technologies are incredible. They allow us to capture the site in its current state, creating a digital archive for research, conservation planning, and even virtual tours.
It's like taking a snapshot in time, preserving those details for future generations, even if the physical structures continue to deteriorate. It's a way of ensuring that even if the worst happens, we don't lose those vital pieces of information.
And these digital records can also be used to educate the public, raising awareness about the importance of Soğmatar and the threats it faces.
Absolutely. And they can help deter looting by creating a detailed inventory of artifacts and their locations, making it harder to sell stolen items on the black market.
It's like giving those artifacts a digital fingerprint, making them traceable and harder to hide.
Exactly. And then there's the crucial role of community engagement. Local people are often the best stewards of their own heritage.
Yeah, absolutely. Involving them in conservation efforts, educating them about the site's significance, and providing economic opportunities related to tourism can create a sense of ownership and responsibility.
It's about recognizing that archaeological sites aren't just for academics or tourists. They're part of a living, breathing cultural landscape. And by involving the local community, we're ensuring that the site's story continues to be told and cherished.
It's about bridging that gap between the past and the present, showing how those ancient stories are still relevant today.
Right. And that brings us to a crucial question. What does the future hold for Soğmatar?
Right.
It's a site facing numerous challenges, but it's also a site of immense historical and cultural value. So how do we balance those competing forces? How do we protect the site while still allowing people to experience it and learn from it?
It's a delicate balancing act, but I think there are reasons to be hopeful. The key lies in collaboration. We need governments, archaeologists, conservators, and local communities working together.
We do.
And we need to raise public awareness about the importance of cultural heritage and the threats it faces. Because ultimately, the fate of Soğmatar rests in our hands.
It does. It's up to us to decide whether these ancient stories will continue to be told or whether they will be lost to the sands of time.
And that brings us to the end of part 2 of our deep dive into Soğmatar. We've examined some of the fascinating discoveries made at the site, from ancient toys to family tombs, from temples aligned with the stars to wells that sustained a community.
And we've delved into the challenges facing Soğmatar's preservation, exploring the threats posed by the environment, looting, and the delicate balance between public access and protection.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Soğmatar. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has.
I mean, we've explored the ruins, the tombs, those ancient quarries. We even touched upon the echoes of ancient beliefs, from celestial worship to that intriguing connection to Moses.
Yeah, it's amazing how much we've uncovered.
It is. But now it's time to step back and think about what it all means.
Okay.
What can Soğmatar teach us? Not just about the past, but about ourselves, our place in the world.
It's almost like Soğmatar is this mirror reflecting humanity's enduring search for meaning and connection.
Yeah.
You know, for thousands of years, people journeyed to this remote spot in the Tek Mountains to worship, to bury their loved ones, to build a community.
It's a powerful testament to that inherent human need for something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely.
Something that gives our life purpose and significance.
Yeah, and that search often leads to the creation of these sacred spaces like Soğmatar.
Like Soğmatar.
Those spaces where the veil between the everyday and the divine feels thin.
Soğmatar definitely fits that description.
It does.
With its central mound, those temples aligned with the stars, those mysterious caves and elaborate tombs.
It's a place where people could commune with the cosmos, honor their ancestors, and find solace in the face of life's uncertainties. And what's fascinating is how those beliefs and practices evolved over time, layering upon one another.
Yeah.
Just like the strata we find in those archaeological excavations.
Right. We see that shift from those polytheistic beliefs centered around those celestial deities to the later incorporation of those monotheistic traditions connected to Moses.
Right.
It's almost like a palimpsest where you can see traces of earlier beliefs beneath the surface.
It reminds us that belief systems aren't static, they're dynamic.
Yeah.
They adapt and change in response to new influences and ideas.
Right.
Yet there's also that sense of continuity at Soğmatar, a thread that connects those different belief systems across time.
It's that human longing for connection, for belonging, and a sense of place in the grand scheme of things.
Right, it's almost universal.
It is. Whether they were worshiping the moon god Sin or seeking the blessings of Moses, the people who came to Soğmatar were searching for something that transcended their individual lives.
Right.
Something that gave them a sense of purpose and meaning.
Exactly.
You know, Soğmatar also reminds us of the fragility of the past. This incredible site faces those threats we discussed. Erosion, looting, the impact of tourism, even the simple passage of time.
Right.
It's sobering to think that even the most enduring monuments can crumble, and the stories they hold can be lost.
It is, and that's why the work of archaeologists, conservators, and historians is so crucial. They're not just digging up the past, they're fighting to protect it, to ensure that those stories continue to be told.
Absolutely.
But it's not just their responsibility.
Right.
It's all of ours. We have a role to play in preserving our shared human heritage.
So what can we do? How can we as individuals contribute to the protection of sites like Soğmatar?
Well, there are several things. First, educate yourself. Learn about the history and the significance of these places. When you visit, Do so responsibly, follow the guidelines set by those managing the site.
Yeah, it's also important to support organizations that are dedicated to archaeological research and conservation.
It is.
Donations, volunteering, spreading the word, advocating for policies that protect cultural heritage. All of these actions make a difference.
They do, and perhaps most importantly, share those stories.
Yeah.
Talk to your friends and family about what you've learned. Inspire others to care about the past.
Yeah.
Because the past isn't just a collection of dusty artifacts. It's a reflection of who we are, where we come from, and what makes us human.
It connects us to something larger than ourselves.
Absolutely.
The story of Soğmatar is just one small piece of a much larger tapestry woven from the threads of countless cultures and civilizations.
That tapestry is rich and complex, full of beauty and wonder and tragedy.
Yeah.
And it's a tapestry that we must continue to weave,
Right.
adding our own threads to the story and ensuring it unfolds for generations to come.
So the next time you look up at the stars, remember Soğmatar. Remember the people who gazed upon those same stars thousands of years ago, who built their lives and their beliefs around those celestial wonders.
Right.
Remember their stories, their struggles, their triumphs, and their enduring legacy.
Let their example inspire you to cherish and protect the treasures of the past, for they are the threads that connect us all.
That's it for our deep dive into Soğmatar. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and that it's sparked a curiosity in you to learn more about the past, explore the many wonders that await discovery.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.